Welcome to the Top Floor, the podcast where we delve into the stories of top industry leaders here in the Middle East. I'm your host, Simon Lewis, and today we have a truly remarkable guest joining us. He's been with Electra for over 5 years, and since becoming the CEO in January 2021, he's driven the company's sustainable growth in the Middle East events industry. Under his leadership, Electra has become the leading production house, supporting agencies, international and local event management with custom-made stands, exhibition scenography, event decor, and much, much more. Before Electra, he was an international director at Groupé Legendre, managing offices across Asia and the UAE from his base in Shanghai, China. His career also includes roles at Intersport, Puma, and Ripco, where he gained valuable experience in marketing, product management, and supply chain operations. Today, we're going to explore his leadership journey, the challenges he's faced, and his vision for the future of the events industry in the Middle East. Please join me in welcoming Benoit Honnart to the Top Floor. Benoit, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and welcome.
Thank you, Simon, for hosting me today. Thanks for the introduction.
Pleasure. Now, let's kick off. Let's understand what motivated you to pursue a career in the industry.
Well, the event and exhibition industry is quite exciting. I mean, if you are bored at home, I can guarantee that's probably the industry you want to join. And with the chance of having at the end the opportunity to join some of the most exciting events happening in our region. I mean, when you have joined the FIFA World Cup or some of the Formula One races, or some of the fashion shows happening here, it becomes really exciting. And the fast pace of it makes it really a challenge of every day. And none of the days are similar. You come at the office, or you come at the factory, or you come on the project ground, and you don't know what to expect. So that's obviously makes the journey a bit special.
Yeah, and with all that exposure to world-class events, it must be a fascinating journey for you. And let's just talk about that leadership journey and your early experiences. Can you share an early career experience that really shaped your approach to leadership today?
Well, as you introduced myself, I have spent 10 years of my life in China, right after graduating from France. So obviously my background is very European. And then you arrive in the middle of Shanghai, which is a 20+ million people mega city, where you have to make a business. You have to build a business from scratch. You have to understand how things work in China. You have to understand the cultural background, and you are giving a blank paper, and this is from where you have to start. Recruiting people, building up a offering, having an organization in place, making sure your partner in China is also happy and understands what you're doing, which is not always easy, obviously, with the different cultural backgrounds. So that has really forged the way I have started my career, and also the way I'm currently working as a businessman. China has its plus and minus. I would say one of the strengths that you learn in China is how to act quickly, how to work very efficiently, how to be very opportunistic, and obviously how to adapt, because China is a fast-growing market and always has been in the last 10 years. And you need to be fast to grab any piece of business you can.
So let's focus on that a little bit more. What were some of the biggest challenges in those early days for you?
First of all, there has been some crisis. When I arrived in China, it was 2007. So in 2008, you just arrive, you just open your company, you're extremely excited to build up your business, and then straight away you have a first crisis. So you're like, all right, so I need to think differently. And at the time, my main business was logistics and supply chain. And I was like, all right, how can I diversify this? And this is the time where I decided to open a trading company, so that I could have on one side the supply, the logistics part of it, and on the other side, helping European companies to identify suppliers in Asia. And in that way, I had a split of business, not only related to shipping and to logistics, but also another part of the business where I could actually be upfront and propose some sourcing solutions to my client. So it was all about, all right, I'm struggling in business. How can I diversify my offer and limit my risk? And that's really something that I have learned with this first crisis. Obviously, then after that, you have the growth period where you have to recruit the right talents, make sure they are motivated, make sure that your different offices where you're not working on a daily basis are structured in the right way. They have the right autonomy and they can drive their business without having your physical presence all the time. So that was the second phase of the challenges. And ultimately, obviously, is to run different countries at the same time. So when I moved to Dubai and still having to run the Asian business, working at distance, and that was before COVID, and we had Teams and Zoom. It was not an easy piece because you already have to be managing your team on a regular basis without being physically present.
So wow, so from that startup to having to be agile in pivoting your business to then obviously moving and dealing with COVID, which was a pandemic that affected us all. I want to explore how you evolved as a leader and look at yourself now and your leadership style when you first moved to China and your leadership style now. What's changed?
Well, the scale, obviously, the company I'm currently running has 500 employees plus, all across UAE and Saudi Arabia. So when you have a structure of that size, the most important is to rely on trusted directors around you, a team that you can trust, that have the same passion, the same values, and are able to be autonomous in whatever mission you want to give them, and also have the respect of the team around them. So that really is a key factor, which when you come from a company of 50, 60 employees to 10 times more, that delegation part is crucial. Giving the ownership to the people around you and to show the entire company that you have a trusted team around you that can take the company wherever it has to go, and not only by the only leadership of the CEO. I think that trust factor is the key part of a successful journey, and it takes time. It takes time to build that trust, but once you have it, you can really push the boundaries, and you can really focus on the vision, on the strategy, and making sure the people around you are running the operations, running the finance, running the HR, running the supply chain as per the strategy we all agreed.
So key takeouts then, building a team based on capabilities that you need, building trust within them, giving ownership, and aligning to a strategy and a vision. Am I right?
Absolutely, Aki. It's exactly the way I believe you make a successful business. Every business is different, but I would say the human factor is a key part of it.
So we've all faced challenges as leaders, without a doubt, and we've had to overcome obstacles. And I want to explore how based on that foundation of building a successful business and a successful team around you, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a leader in your current role?
Well, you mentioned about the pandemic, and when you work in the events and exhibition industry, it has all impacted us very badly. Especially when you have factories and so many people in the company when it's all starting back in January, February 2020. And it's all very sudden. I mean, in a couple of days, we had more than 10 projects canceled, events canceled, and straight away your operation just stops. and you're like, all right, this is maybe going to last a bit longer than we all expect. So what am I going to do to sustain the company, sustain as many people as you can in the company, and how do you prepare yourself for the after? So that's pretty much what we try to do. Luckily for us, we had the Expo 2020 operating in the background. So we never stopped the production. Factory was running from the first day of the pandemic, even during the full lockdown. But then you had to think of how do you protect the well-being of my employees? How do you make sure their health is protected? How do you make sure the virus is not spreading around? And that was obviously a big work to be done on the management of the accommodation, management of the production shifts, management of the logistics. Who has the right to go to the factory, and who is the exposure factor in this case? But I think what really made a huge difference is to think differently and like, all right, we do events and exhibition, but at the same time, the government is looking to build quarantine hospital. Maybe I could just contact these people and say, you know what, I have walls that have been produced and no one is using. You might be interested. And so what I did is I sent an email to a random email I found on the internet to the Ministry of Health of Abu Dhabi. And I think the next day morning, they asked me for a meeting in the middle of a first hospital they were building in Dubai, and telling me if I was able to do the same within 14 days and building 1,200 rooms. I had no clue if it was feasible or not. All I knew is that I needed the cash, I needed the operations, and that was a great opportunity for us. So I said, you know what, let's do it. And 10 days after, we had more than 1,000 people on site to build this quarantine hospital, which literally saved us in parallel with Expo. But we got the cash right away. They pay us up front. And that really sustained Electra and made who we are today.
Brilliant. Absolutely fascinating story. And that key theme about looking after your people in challenging times is really resonating with me, because, you know, we've all got to remember that the people we employ, as and when they leave our organization, that they become ambassadors for
Yes.
our organization going forward. And I think, you know, companies often forget that, regardless if they leave on a good level or one of disharmony. But I want to talk about a little bit about making tough decisions. Can you provide an example of a particularly tough decision that you've had to make with your people, and how did you handle it?
Well, I think a tough decision, first of all, needs to be thought about. And sometimes you tend to react quickly to a situation. And that probably is one of the things I have learned over my leadership journey. Obviously, when you're coming out of your graduation and a bit, you know, full of energy, you tend to take quick decision without really thinking of the impact behind it. I would say with experience comes the maturity of being able to take the time necessary to take a decision, plan your decision, and make sure your decision is going to be well seen, or at least understood around you. So that's, I would say, the time factor is a key aspect. The second thing is, when you take your decision, you always need to explain to the people why this decision will make sense on the long run. It's not just a short-term decision, it's a long-term decision. As a CEO, I believe people are expecting you to have that vision. You have that capacity to look ahead and not just make a decision based on a current situation, but based on potentially where the company is going to be heading or the development that the company will be working on. And that is a mix of the role of the people. Who are you going to be recruiting as a person, or as part of your organization? What do I need to succeed in the strategy I have put in place? So if the decision is about deciding jointly that you have to stop working with someone, or you want to promote that person into a new role, well, you need to explain to that person exactly what's the opportunity for him, and what's the opportunity for the company doing such a change. But it's never easy to take such a decision. I always obviously take a bit of emotion time to time, taking the tough decision. You know, we always say that a CEO, the worst thing for a CEO is being alone. And I really think this is really the most difficult part of a CEO. And when you take such a difficult decision, you sometimes feel very alone, because that's not something you can share with anyone. And obviously, it's never easy to take a tough decision. We're all human, and sometimes it's just is a tough thing to do, a very tough thing to do.
It's one of the key challenges and reasons that our Vistage members face every day. They're all CEOs like yourself, and one of the key themes that come out is saying it's lonely at the top, that executive isolation and having to make decisions where you've got to trust your instinct, you've got to trust the facts, and you've also got to think what's best for the company that you're leading. They're the challenges that we talk on a monthly basis and go through, because sometimes just bouncing it off neutral people is absolutely key. And if I look then to your leading through change, yeah, and how do you manage change within your organization? Yeah, especially during the time of COVID, for example, where everything was a little bit uncertain. Yes, you had those couple of breaks, which was great. But then you've obviously got to think, well, how are we going to recover, and what's the next step going on after 2021? You know, where do we get to?
Yeah, well, what's really key is to stimulate your team with new ideas. The disruption of your thinking is a key factor to be ready for what's coming next. And one of the things that we've put in place in Electra is we have a innovation committee with people from different departments that get together, look at what's the trend in the market, or what are the trends coming, and what new solution we could propose. It can be a product, it can be a process, it can be a methodology, it can be a tool, whatever will make Electra better or more adapted to a new world or a new market or a new demand. And I think that comes from the top, and I'm really trying to stimulate regularly my team around me with a brainstorming session. Let's take 2 hours of our executive committee time to brainstorm and on a specific topic. And any idea is a good idea, because I strongly believe that by freeing the speech and not framing too much the topics, this is where you come up with things that you have never thought about before. But that is really related to the format of your meetings, the format of your discussions internally. You need to free that speech. And we tend to put a topic, we tend to put an objective, we tend to put a KPIs, but sometimes, you know what, just a free discussion can lead to great decision.
That's fascinating, because yeah, I've been involved in innovation centers before. They can get very expensive because it's often a dedicated team, either from the IT or some sort of performance development type of system or structure in the organization, and departments go in, not necessarily cross-functional departments. So you tend to get a very vertical innovation rather than one that, you know, is seen from different perspectives, which of course is going to be far more effective and healthy. And you know, that's obviously a great strategy to employ and align your teams, particularly during transitions, which I think is fascinating. Have you got an example that you can give us of something where that approach has actually brought you dividends as a business?
Well, we have recently developed a new product. It's called the wood line. So the wood line is it's a tent, okay? But the people are coming to Electra to have very premium tent, and they tend to always try to hide what's ugly about the tent, which is usually the aluminum frame or the joints that you have, or the brackets that you have in the tent. So the wood line is a very straightforward innovation where we basically try to mix technology, sustainability, and a great look and feel, making sure that it's actually cost saving to have such a product. It required a lot of development together with one of our suppliers in Europe. It's an extraction of all the feedbacks we got from different clients, and we ended up with a structure which is great from a look perspective. It is wood coated, still in aluminium, so it's extremely strong. And you don't need to put too much cladding or decoration around it, because the structure itself looks beautiful and you can use it for events, wedding, for different types of exhibitions. And that is a pure result of innovation and R&D and feedback from our clients. I mean, listening to your client is a key aspect as well of generating new ideas. They are the one knowing what they want, right? And you need to come with solutions.
So again, real fascinating insights there. One, get cross-functional teams together that can sort of operate to a fairly open agenda and just let their imagination rip, which I love to hear. Look at the research and development around what your customers are looking for. And the third bit is listening to your customers and getting their feedback. I mean, it's so simple, but look what happened. Yeah. It's remarkable. So let's project ourselves forward a little bit. How do you see the future of leadership in your industry evolving?
There will be many changes. Being here in the region, one of the biggest change we're going to see is the diversification of the resources, and more importantly, how do we integrate Emiratis, Saudis to our team? We start to see them coming, greatly educated, with a very open background, because they have made their studies in different countries. And how do we get this local talent into your industry and giving them the key roles of tomorrow? So I think that will be the first big change we're going to see in the next year. The second one is, how do you integrate AI? I know it's a big topic, and there is a lot of articles about AI. Well, one of the things we've done in Electra, which obviously was not my first priority, but it turned out to be extremely successful, was to integrate AI in recruitment. So today in Electra, when we post a offer, we usually receive between 1,000 or 1,500 candidates. It's a huge amount. And you will never screen all these CVs unless you recruit or you hire an HR team of 20 people. So we implemented this AI tool, giving us a screening of about 20 to 30 candidates. And then from this great selection, we obviously do the interview physically, and we make a selection. The positive impact behind this was to actually create more diversity, because there is no bias from the tool. The tool will just give you the skills that you need, and will not check the nationality, the cultural background, and it had actually improved our diversity. And we have hired, I think, 7 or 8 more nationalities that we had before, ending up with, I think, 36 nationalities in Electra. And that was something I was not expecting from AI, because you think it's robotic and you don't think about diversity. So I think integrating AI in the right way to make people better, more efficient, more on the spot, that is going to be one of the biggest challenge for the managers of tomorrow. And last but not least is, how do you react to crisis? Because we see an increase of frequency of the crisis, whatever it's a pandemic or it's a weather condition. We have seen it in Dubai recently, whether it's economic or it's a war, as we see unfortunately in Gaza. How do you react to that? And you need to be extremely agile as a leader to make sure your company is fitting to a situation where you need to take decisions quickly and be prepared for what's coming after.
AI is the hot subject today, and what I find so fascinating about it is that, I've got a good friend in the Vistage environment, and he specializes in this area. And he brings it down to earth a little bit by actually sort of saying, look, it's been around for 15 years. It's just that chat GPT has actually sort of evolved it into another level, and now we're seeing variants of that, and it's fascinating. I mean, using it in recruitment, I get it. I mean, are you finding that the people that you're recruiting, whilst being from a diverse background, you're getting a higher quality of recruits coming from it?
Yeah, much better, and we recruit much faster as well. The time you take to screen CVs is obviously taking a lot of time. The AI just gives you in about a week time a screening of more than 1,000 CVs, get the CVs or the skills that you need, and based on that, then you can do the interviews and you can recruit much faster. And honestly, it turned out to be extremely good because we have hired great people out of implementing AI in HR, which was obviously not the first thing I would have thought about when you talk about AI. But it's the first thing we have done.
And of course, your HR team is being far more productive in being able to focus on those interviews and leaving the sort of everyday robotic tasks of selection to the AI. Love it.
Yeah.
So, advice for aspiring leaders. What advice would you give to somebody aspiring to a leadership position today?
Well, there is no one tip, and obviously it's a combination of things that will make you a leader of tomorrow. What I've done, first of all, is obviously the cultural diversity. The companies that we're running today are most of them international companies with multiple nationalities, reaching different markets all around the world. So if you don't understand the different cultural background, it is very difficult today to have a good understanding of how to be a good manager, whatever the nationality of your employees. How do you address this certain market? You obviously don't address the same way the Chinese market, the Indian market, or the US market. They are all very different. So that background is a key aspect. Traveling, listening, trying to get into the literature of all these different countries helps. Now, it's also about having the right tools. And as I said, the fact that it's going so fast and then you need to take these decisions in a very quick manner, you need to have the right tools to help you in that extent. AI obviously is one of them, but there are a lot of different tools that exist that helps you in planning, that helps you in CRM, that helps you. There are so many tools you can use to be a more efficient manager. And I'm going to end with maybe the most basic of all, listening. We tend to, have too many informations from the TV, from the internet, but we tend not to listen. We do a lot of zapping, but taking the time of sitting down with a successful leader or with a group of leaders and listening to what they have to say is probably the best advice I can give. I mean, I'm learning every day, and I will hopefully learn until the last day of my life. And that's a good leader is someone that is able to listen and try to understand from everyone's perspective, what can you do better or what can you do differently, because everyone has an input and everyone can make you better.
Only this morning, I had a business breakfast with some friends, and we were just talking about how today, we were talking about a sales role, in fact, and how today, the salesman in my friend's organization spent more time at their desk than going out and actually speaking to their customers.
Yeah.
And, we were concluding that perhaps it's the CRM system that's driving that behavior. Mm-hmm. Rather than going out and meeting face to face and talking and listening and really getting an understanding of your audience, your customer, the people that you're leading. I can remember in my previous role, we introduced a process where the president had a breakfast every month, just for an hour, across the board, and you can call it a social hall meeting, whatever you want to call it, but it was so powerful because one, everybody had the opportunity to go. It wasn't sort of selective in that sense. But two, he would open up about things that perhaps those people would never know about. And they got an understanding of the challenges he was facing, but he also got an understanding of the challenges they were facing. And so the whole organization just lifted in its environment for those being employed there, and what it stood for, all based heavily in going back to that vision and that strategy that was in place. Wonderful. So let's start to wrap up here. Personal reflections. What has been the most rewarding aspect of your leadership journey so far?
I think the after pandemic, when I could see that the company was stronger out of this crisis than it was before. Having around me, keeping the most talented people despite the difficulties, and building up a successful journey after that with great development, some awards that we've got from the industry to greet what we had done, and also the fact that a lot of people were coming to us and saying, "Oh, we were seeing Electra, and we are seeing the projects you're delivering, the way you're taking care of your people. We heard in the market." And that was obviously a great reward, because it means that the work that had been done during the pandemic was the right one to be ready for the next phase or the next era behind it.
Wow. So if you could go back and give your younger self, that Benoit in China, one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the decision of getting myself out of the comfort zone and leaving France and leaving the family, the friends, and what I had been told all these years in college and university, taking that risk of going abroad at 25 years old was probably the best decision I've ever done, because it gave me the capacity to learn, to listen, obviously, to make mistakes. And we all know that by making mistakes, this is where you learn the most. And so if I go back to this when I was 25, I think it was the right decision. Now, yes, I did mistakes. Yes, there are things that I reacted too quickly, and that's part of the youth, right? But I do believe that if there is one thing that I really do not regret, is to take the decision of flying over to China at the end of the world and opening up that business together with Groupé Legendre, and meet and recruit all these people, which, by the way, are still working for that company now. I've visited them recently in Shanghai, and it was really a true honor to see all of these people that started the journey still working for the same company at the same office with the same passion.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about leadership and its challenges before we close?
Well, first of all, Simon, thanks for giving me that opportunity. I could talk about leadership, for a very, very long time, and I'm sure you do as well. I mean, with your experience, leadership is not something that has a conclusion, and I would like to actually conclude that way, even though it's a bit strange. But leadership is a journey that you keep on learning until the end, and that humility is so important. It's part of the listening aspect, but if you don't have that humility of just asking yourself when you wake up in the morning, what am I going to learn today, or what am I going to learn from the others today? If you don't have that mentality, I believe you will be having issues as a leader, because that's the only way for me to make yourself and evolve positively and bring the right added value as a leader.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. And in Vistage, we call it vulnerability, and we encourage our members to really focus, before they go to bed and when they get up, something around gratitude, and actually be grateful for where you are and look to where you want to be, and understand how you're going to do that in the best way possible to be at your best. And I think that's wonderful advice. So thank you. So to close, how can our listeners connect with you and learn more about work at Electra?
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Simon.
Sorry, how can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your work at Electra?
Well, first of all, LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. It's one of these tools that I recommend to use wisely. So you can connect on Benoit Honnart, Honnart on LinkedIn. And I will usually react very quickly, and you will be able to access the Electra LinkedIn page as well. We're quite active and posting a lot of the pictures of events and exhibitions that we are doing.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a wonderful, wonderful session with you. Thank you so much. I could go on talking to you all day, but I haven't got time. Hopefully we can pick that up at another date. But
sure.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences, and I hope your listeners have got those wonderful key takeouts from your journey as a leader in the Middle East. Thank you again.
Thank you, Simon. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.